Greetings, dear viewers. Recently a friend and I were having a chat about guitar solos that we had played on as session musicians. We were talking about some of our favourite solos, and I thought I'd share one with you. About 1995, I was involved in kind of co-producing and engineering and being a musician on a record for a gospel artist, Australian gospel artist called Steve Grace. Steve's been around for a long time. He's a lovely guy. He does great things in rural, regional Victoria, New South Wales, Queensland. He travels all over the place. He spends a bit of time in Nashville too, actually. He's released a ton of records. Anyway, this was about 1995, and a good friend and I, Craig Ross, worked on this record. We had session drummer, session bass player in, session singers, and I think Craig and I, apart from Steve singing and playing acoustic guitar, Craig and I pretty much played everything else on the record. But there was one song on here called A Cry in the Wilderness, and it was a song that Steve wrote that he dedicated to a very big American Christian musician who was quite influential in the 70s called Keith Green. Keith was the kind of guy who would put on his records, he wouldn't say copying this record is illegal, he would say copy this record and give it to your friends. He was one of those kinds of characters. So Keith Green tragically died in a plane accident, and every Christian musician across the world was affected by his tragic and untimely departure. I think it was a great song. I think the track that we came up with was really good, and it was time for me to go in and lay down a guitar solo for the song. I had my trusty custom Maton Stratocaster, which had single coils in it. I still have that guitar. And I was plugged into my pedal board, which was very simple at the time. I was running through a quadriverb for delay and ambient effects, and then I was running straight into a 25 watt non-master volume amp that I used to just turn on to 10, and that was running into a quad box. So I had all that set up in the booth, and I went in, I worked out roughly what I was going to do in the solo, and I walked into the booth and I put headphones on and I stood in front of the amp and played the solo, and it was one take, and I was very happy with how it turned out. Part way toward the end, the second or third last note, I hold the note and you can hear it's gonna take off because of feedback. The amp was so loud in the room that it was making my guitar feedback. The last note I chose to play, I held it and sustained it, and then it was perfect. It fed back and the octave came in as feedback, and I was able to sustain the octave above that. It was just one of those solos that perhaps I totally asked it, who knows, but I really felt it when I was playing it. The sound inspired me, the song inspired me, and it's one of those solos that isn't fancy at all, but I just remember loving the tone, loving the notes that I came up with on the spot, and then the feedback just was the icing on the cake. So here's a little snippet of Steve's song, A Cry in the Wilderness. Hope you enjoy it.
Working on my dreams and heart's desire.